So the Buffalo Sabres did something today that made me feel happy and good. Hey everyone, my name is Melody. Thank you for clicking on this video. It's been a while. It has been a very long time since I was able to talk about something Buffalo Sabres related. And it's probably going to be a while after this. I mean, I can't imagine anything important is going to happen surrounding the Buffalo Sabres this offseason, you know? Just kidding. It's going to be awful. But anyways, today the Buffalo Sabres announced that they are removing the interim tag and making Don Granato their full-time head coach. Donnie Meatballs, as Sabres Twitter likes to call him. Kind of an expected move, kind of what everyone thought was going to happen. It did take a very long time. They certainly took their time. Apparently did their due diligence and interviewed a bunch of people. But in the end, it looks like they just kind of stuck with what they knew. So they're keeping Don Granato around after he was the interim head coach for the past 28 games with the Sabres last season. And I think that's the right decision. I think that was like the safe decision, the smart decision. I know there were a lot of kind of big name coaches on the market. And I'm sure the Sabres did their due diligence and they did their interviews because it seemed like this took forever. But where the Sabres are at now, I think this is the move that makes the most sense in terms of the head coach. I think the biggest thing we learned from Don Granato is that he's great with the younger players. And, you know, his whole history was in, you know, development and player development. Because I think the biggest thing we saw once Don Granato took over for Ralph Krueger was the young guys. They really took steps forward and really, really looked a lot better. Guys like Dahlin, guys like Middlestat, Tage Thompson, you know, you could definitely tell that there was something holding them back, and with Granato, he kind of let them do what they had to do. And so I think when you're looking at the Sabres, if they're trading away Jack Eichel, which they are, if they're trading away Sam Reinhart, Rasmus Ristolainen, if they're getting rid of all these guys and they're kind of going into a rebuild mode, I think this is what makes the most sense, right? You know, we're getting the number 1 overall pick this year. We're getting probably more picks and prospects once, you know, the Sam Reinhart and Jack Eichel trades happen. So it's going to be it's going to be a really young team. And I think if you can have someone that works really well with the younger players, and can get the best out of them, can develop them, I think that's got to be what you got to do, right? We're obviously not going to be in win now mode anytime soon. You know, if we're trading away all our good players. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. So Granato, he took over for Ralph Krueger this previous season in the midst of that real long losing streak. They were at a 12-game losing streak when Ralph Krueger was fired and Granato took over, and it's not like things changed right away, and Granato definitely said that. He said specifically, and I like this, he said, give it a week, and after a week, you'll start seeing some improvements once we implement kind of a new system. And yeah, you did. I mean, the losing streak went to 18 games. Like, it didn't just stop once Granato took over. Went to 18 games. Eventually, they broke out of it. But I mean, after that, like, you could definitely tell that there was, I guess, a shift. And I don't know exactly what happened and what Granato changed. But the Sabres ended up going 9-16-3 under Granato after Krueger left. Which, if you consider everything that happened to the Sabres this season, that's pretty impressive. Like, if you look at the roster they had, if you look at all the injuries they had, you know, Granato took over not far away from the trade deadline, so, you know, he lost a bunch of veterans to the trade deadline. He was basically only working with the young guys, and we were on, like, our 5th, 6th string goalie in a tough division, too. So the fact that, you know, we looked competitive, that was the biggest thing, is when under Krueger, like, we were just getting rolled, and the games weren't even remotely competitive. They weren't completely unwatchable. So Granato basically took this team that was gutted enough and made them watchable, made them competitive. And it's good because, like, I was totally ready to write off guys like Casey Middlestat. I'm fully ready to put him in, like, full-on bust category. I'm not kidding. Tage Thompson, who sucks at hockey! I'm totally happy to take the L's on that one if they want to keep improving. Even Rasmus Dahlin, too. Like, I wasn't super quick to give up on Rasmus Dahlin, but there was, like, a lot of worry that Rasmus Dahlin was just regressing completely compared to, like, his first rookie season under Phil Housley. And then it just seemed like he was taking steps back under Krueger. So to see Dahlin being able to... because I think the biggest thing was Krueger was always very defensive-minded coach. He wanted defense first. Rasmus Dahlin, you know, his game is always kind of like a two-way game, and he has good offensive instincts. So because that was suppressed, and he was basically only playing defense, like, he just wasn't himself. You could tell the difference almost immediately. And you still got guys like Dylan Cousins. Again, you got the first overall pick that'll eventually be coming in. So this is just going to be such a young team, and I think it's going to be very important you know, obviously we're going to have to see what Kevin Adams does with the rest of the roster, but not to put too much pressure on these young guys and not to have these young guys get down on themselves because, you know, they're just in a losing situation. So I think Don Granato will be good with that. I mean, hopefully the Sabres learn their lesson. I mean, they brought in Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart as rookies with really not a whole lot of veteran help, and for years just put so much on their shoulders. So I really hope the Sabres learn from their mistakes and, you know, put these young guys now without Jack, without Sam, without veterans, put them in a better situation to succeed, but we'll have to see. I think the thing to me that's the most encouraging about this hire is that the Sabres know what they have in Granato, right? Like, you don't know, like, you bring someone else and you bring a veteran coach in, like one of the big names that you've heard on the market. You bring one of those guys in, you just don't know how it's going to work. Whereas with, you know, Granato, you already have seen what he's capable of. You've already seen how he was able to take this gutted roster and turn him around on a horribly historic losing streak, turn them around, make them a competitive, watchable hockey team under weird circumstances this year, right? With all the COVID stuff and all the division, only playing the teams in your division. So there's no guessing. Like, we already know what Granato's about. You know, you got to imagine that whatever happens next year with the Sabres, it's not going to be this horrible, right? Like, ideally, it's not going to be another COVID season. Ideally, the Sabres don't have as many injury issues as they do. You know, ideally they make some moves. I mean, they have capital, they have assets, they can make moves to, you know, do something. Like, they're not just going to stay stagnant. But the thing I found most interesting about Don Granato was, you know, how often he seemingly, like, seemed to contradict things that Ralph Kruger said. The thing I remember specifically that he said, because Kruger was just preaching, like, oh, well, the reason we're not playing well is because we're not a confident bunch and we're just lacking confidence and that's why we're not having success, but we just got to stick within the system. Oh my God, I'm like cringing thinking about things he said. And again, too, Ralph Kruger, you know, heavy into the defensive mindset. So then Don Granato kind of comes in and kind of pushes more of an offensive style. And he said something specifically that I loved. So he was talking about, like, why he thought the team was struggling to find success. And he said, I felt our team was confused and anxious at times. I never felt the effort wasn't there. The commitment wasn't there. There's been nothing like this season. All of that said, we've had trouble scoring. We know the importance of defense, Ralph. That can hurt your confidence if you're a team that can't defend itself and defend well. Not spoken often is offense and the damaging psychological impact of not being able to score. And I thought that was so important too, because, like, how often under Ralph Kruger did the Sabres, like, get shut out or only score one goal? Like, a lot. Like, a lot. So to hear him say that, you know, especially considering we know how much Ralph Kruger just preached defense all the time, and, you know, to hear him say, well, yeah, but hockey's a game of scoring. You got to score. You got to create offense. That's where your confidence comes from. You're confident when you're creating offense, not when you're, you know, playing defense in your own end well or something. Not like the Sabres did that. So then he said, it's dreadful when you fall behind 1-0 in a game and you feel like you can't get back in a game, and that happens all the time in sports. I'd like to have my teams confident offensively, and that's the direction I believe we need to move, certainly without compromising improvements on the defensive side, and I don't think you have to compromise. In fact, I know you don't have to compromise on the defensive side to accomplish that. Like, that's so important. That's so important. It's so simple, but you could tell, like, right when Granato took over, you can tell how different it was. Like, it just seemed like they were passing better. They were more confident with the puck. They were more confident to be able to go up and try to create offense, try to make plays. So I think at the very least, like, that's probably what I'm most excited to see. Even if they're not winning, even if they aren't good enough to win games, at the very least, you know, create offense, make it exciting, make it competitive, which is what I think they did, you know, the last 10, 15 or so games under Granato. So obviously this is probably the first move in what's going to be a lot of moves that the Sabres will do this offseason. I think having the coach in place first was the first thing, and now I think Kevin Adams can move forward and do what he's gotta do. In the meantime, I mean, watching playoff hockey has been fun. Like, I gotta tell you, it's interesting watching playoff hockey and not, like, worrying about it. Like, that's the thing. As bad as it sucked being out of the playoffs for the past 10 years, like, the stress that I put myself under as a mere 16-year-old, I think the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs, was tough. Like, I couldn't imagine being, like, a fan of these teams in the playoffs and going through the stress that they must be going through. It's nice to watch playoff hockey and just kind of be chill about it. You know what I mean? So it should be an interesting offseason, of course. I'll be here for all of it. So as always, thank you for watching this video. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button as it helps my YouTube channel. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about the hire. Do you like the fact that they brought Granato back? Do you wish they kind of went for a bigger name or somebody different? Either way, always feel free to let me know. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you soon. Go Bills, go Sabres, go Blue Jays. Happy Pride. Bye, guys.